Hey everybody, it's your Survivor pal Gordon Holmes here with your exit press for Survivor 47 episode finale, the finale episode, the first half of the finale. It's weird. We're going to be talking to Andy and Genevieve in just a moment. I'm going to recycle this intro because it's good for the environment. So if you've heard me say this before, feel free to skip ahead. Before we get into that, a couple of quick orders of business. First of all, the comment section's open. Let's know what you thought of last night's episode, what you think of this interview. As always, the rules are be nice to each other, be nice to contestants, and be nice to me. If you enjoy this content, there's more of it over at gordonholmes.substack.com. You get a full breakdown of each individual episode immediately following its airing on CBS. Also, individual letter grades for each one of the players. How do I think they're doing? Also, if you enjoy this, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, press that notification bell. Gets us in front of more people to see us, more stuff we can do. Also, comment. That helps the algorithm, apparently. I'm not a tech guy. But with that being said, let's see what Andy or Genevieve has to say about last night's episode. All right, Andy the Mandy. I gotta admit, I was on the fence about you, but the Italian job, the Italian Project Italy, whatever it was, just
Operation
couldn't help it.
Italy.
Operation
It
Italy.
was fun. That was such a cool culmination of my game up to that point. I think it came out so well on the TV show. So super proud of that and a lot more about my game.
Yeah, as an Ocean's 11 fan, not so much an Ocean's 12 fan, but then again, weirdly, an Ocean's 13 fan. I enjoyed it. So last night, let's hop into it. Rachel pulls out an idol. Is your first instinct, oh no, Sam, or did you think that she appreciated you enough to send you packing?
I definitely thought it was going to be Sam because
Hmm.
from my perspective that day, even in the aftermath of Operation Italy, a move that I was like thought was really well executed, that was not the perception of Rachel and Sue and Teeny. They didn't look at it as like this master stroke. They looked at it as like one of these impulsive flip-flops that I've been doing from their perspective. So I didn't even think my threat level raised too much. And so going into the final six, I felt like very safe still. And I felt like my problem was I needed to like really do things every single round to try to like secure some jury votes, which led to my conversation with Rachel. And I felt like I had to put in all this effort just to like make up a little bit of ground on Sam, who I thought she perceived as a much bigger threat than me. And so I did not feel, even if an idol came out, that I would be the ricochet. And I was surprised by
You're
it
like,
for
I made
sure.
up too much ground. Too much ground. Back it up. Back it up.
I I overtook him in the threat hierarchy, which was surprising, but
Well,
interesting. But
well,
that's
I
how
was
it turned out.
surprised when it seemed like you're making the point that, hey, this just happened. It wasn't as well thought of. It was the hope to use that to get Teeny on board, and then if you get to a final three, then you could lay it out, and you would probably have Sam and Genevieve there to back your tail. Was that the goal?
From my perspective, the kicker to Operation Italy, especially the version where we're getting out Caroline instead of Rachel, we have to deal with the block vote, right? So flipping Teeny was pretty paramount. And so we had thought of different ways of getting Teeny on board. And the way we did it, we kind of just tripled down on lies to make a long story short. And after that worked, I realized that like once we had flipped Teeny, from my perspective, I was like, this went as well as it could possibly have gone. And then in terms of endgame, yeah, like I wanted to do that move to like now I'm like Genevieve and Sam got a much different look at my game. And a lot of I feel like their perceptions changed with me, right? Especially like Genevieve, who was saying those things about me like the days before. And then after Operation Italy, I thought that was a good opportunity for her to sort of see how my game was actually operating with the hopes that we would eventually get her on the jury. And then in terms of endgame, I felt good sitting next to Sue and Teeny. And if I played all of my cards right and kept taking on bets that would pay off in the endgame, even Sam, but not Rachel or Genevieve.
Yeah. Getting back into with the Operation Italy, as I'm watching it, and three people, it's hard to keep a secret. It's hard to keep everybody on the same page. But even little details like don't shore the idol for too long. You need to
Yeah.
tip it off so that I can put it back. The one that got to me was during the challenge. It occurred to me, I'm like, if Sam or Genevieve win, this screws the whole
Mhm.
deal up because then the votes would probably go on to you.
Yeah.
Was there any discussion about them not winning that challenge?
There was. So the beauty of Operation Italy was all the time we had to plan. It's very rare that three people are bought in on a plan that they're going to do and they have 8 hours to talk about it unimpeded. So from my perspective, there was no detail that we did not account for or stone unturned. As far as them competing in the challenge, I knew it was kind of like we can agree for them to throw it, but you never know what they're going to do in the moment. And so I was definitely pushing that they should throw it because that's the only way that the plan works. However, I will say, once we got back to camp and started implementing Operation Italy before the immunity challenge, Teeny took me to the well and said something that was like really interesting. And they said that I want Sam out, but if Sam wins immunity, I want Rachel out. And I was like, oh, so I like put that in my back pocket. And then all of a sudden, it did not worry me too much if Sam were to win immunity because we could have a contingency plan of just kind of voting for strong to get out Rachel, which in that case, it wouldn't be such a high level operation, but it would be a successful vote. So that was my thought process on that.
Yeah, you had such a fascinating arc from, that first challenge,
Yeah.
having a bit of a breakdown on the mat,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then to come back. Like in hindsight, do you think that that helped take some heat off of you as far as a threat, or where are you with that starting the game on such
Yeah.
such a difficult foot?
For sure. So everything that happened on day three, it happened. You know what I mean? And it was like very not premeditated at all. But I will say I had a very, very crucial moment when I woke up on day four. And I was like, this has all gone as poorly as it could possibly have gone. But I'm still in the game. Like, this is the game I've been dying to play. Like, I need to let me reframe my perspective. First of all, let me just have fun with this. Like, let me like not put all this pressure on myself and feel this type of way. But then number two, I was like, okay, all right, I'm back. I'm playing the game. How do I get out of this hole? And my big macro strategy for a very long time was to lean into my perception. Perception is a huge theme for my game, right? But I knew that after that public panic attack that I had, that like my threat level is in the dirt. My perception as a player is in the dirt. If I stay in the dirt and I slither through, I feel like that plays actually to my strengths because I have a lot of flaws as a player, but I have, in my opinion, like a game awareness and sort of like savviness of when to make a move and when not to make a move. Although it didn't pay out for me at the end, but so that was my macro strategy that carried me into in my opinion, a really good position by the time I got into the middle of the merge.
I think it's interesting you bring up perception because when you made the move, Operation Italy, I believe it was Saul who said that you had flipped. And the difference between a flipper and somebody just making moves, there can be no difference. Like
I
it's just
agree.
it's just how they're viewing it. Was that something you were aware of and that you were prepared to fight if you'd gotten to the end?
Such a great discussion because I mean I study language, like I love like the semantics of like a word, and maybe I'm partially guilty of this because I use the word flip in regards to myself a lot, but a flip really is like when someone you don't respect makes a move. That's
Yeah.
what a flip is. If someone you respect makes a move, then it's a move. And so yeah, perception was really huge, but I guess what my strategy was like I said, lean into being just like a super non-threat. And like once I got like my into the merge, a couple votes into the merge, using the flip on Gata as like a starting point, I think that it put me in this middle position that people were not seeing. So I was in on more information than anyone knew about, and I had more low key swing power than anyone knew about, and that was good. But it's not going to be enough to just ride that out to Final Tribal Council and say, oh, it was all on purpose. It was just not going to be enough. So you need to like it was a good idea to build that perception, but I needed to develop from there by really, really showing agency and showing that that position was real by exploiting this low key influence I had to make things happen, and then have like a really strong end game that I can point to multiple things. And so that, in my opinion, was my narrow pathway to victory.
You keep messing with your hair and it's so distracting because it's very majestic. Um, what I feel like your Achilles heel, and this is based on what they showed us, obviously,
Yeah,
is when
yeah.
people would question your moves or how hard you were playing the games, things like that. Is that something you were aware of out there, or was that something that came to light once you watched it?
I'm really glad you brought this up because it's so funny because like I've like said in some answers, like the perception of it all was a feature and not a bug to my game. But as you're living with these people who you think the world of and think are cool and like you're playing this game, and like after like a week or two of them like really thinking you are a nothing, it wears on you. I was like, this plan is working too well. Like these people don't respect me, and it sucks on an emotional level. And so I really a really good example of that was when Genevieve it got back to me that Genevieve was saying I was being carried because on a game level that's kind of what I wanted people to think about until the moment I can prove them wrong. But on the on the other hand, we had that scene that they showed of me and Genevieve on the beach a few rounds before, talking about how we could work closely together. And from my perspective, I had let her in. I was like trying to, through that relationship, I was like, no, I am like a player, and like we are kind of like we see each other to some extent. And so when someone I highly respect in Genevieve is saying that, it just hurt. It hurt emotionally. And so I was dealing with the difficulties of playing that game because when it works, it sucks, but it's like also part of the plan.
Well, at the end of the day, Rachel could have sent anybody home she wanted outside of Genevieve, and so it does seem like a feather in your cap that she chose you over Sam. We do a, word association here to get to know your tribe mates a little bit better. I'll give you,
Yeah.
you're messing with that hair again.
I'm
I'll give
sorry.
you,
I don't know why I
I
did
can't
that.
focus. I'll give you a name, give me the first word, couple words that pop in your head. Let's
Sure.
start off with Gabe.
Force of nature,
Rome,
competitive,
Genevieve,
powerful,
Teeny,
magnetic,
Sue,
loyal,
Sierra,
a hoot,
John,
witty,
Caroline,
analytical,
Saul,
mentor,
Rachel,
intuitive,
Sam,
depth,
Tiana,
charming,
and let's finish off with Kyle.
grounded.
It seemed post-merge that you wanted to get away from Sam and Sierra. What was the basis behind that? Were they, I don't want to say treating you badly, but did they make you kind of feel like a second-class citizen, or you didn't want to seem like a tag along? What was
Yeah.
the drive behind that
Like I
move?
said, like game and emotions there's always like a mixture right there. But in terms of all that, I would say that I felt really good about them all the way through the Annika blindside. When we get back to camp, I have this one conversation with Rachel and we're just like mending fences. And I was like, oh yeah, why were there four votes? And she's like, yeah, Annika lost her vote on the journey. Sam and Sierra have known that the entire time. And that made me raise my eyebrows for the first time. And so the next day I just kind of basically tested it on them. I'm like, oh, why were there four votes? And they played it off and they lied to me. And I'm like, this is such benign information. Like Annika's gone, like, and yet you're keeping this from me actively. So I'm like, this could be the tip of the iceberg. So I have no idea what's going on anymore. So that reframed my mentality immediately as we go to the same beach, all on the same beach. I'm like, it's all on the table. Like, let me just play my options. And when we get to that merge situation, they really stopped talking with me a lot. Like they were just going off doing their own thing. If anything, they were in close proximity with Rachel a lot, which in my opinion was a mistake. But it left me to my own devices, and I was creating these new bonds, these new relationships. And so when the Rome vote happens and I get two votes and I talk with Saul and he says, no, it was your goddess who threw you under the bus. I was immediately compelled to believe that because of this sort of disintegrated trust I had with them based off of how I was feeling those past couple days. And then so I knew I had to do something about it. I didn't want to just be under the thumb. And so on a strategic level, I felt like if I then go and flip on the Gatas, I put myself in a really good position because it's not like Cochrane with the Sabai going to the bottom of one alliance. I'm going into, in my opinion, the middle of two other factions, Lavo, Tugu, each with their public fractures. And then there's also Gatas, and I could just be this, floater in the middle, going this way and that way, because it did feel like in that merge that the tribes did still like matter in terms of like you want to manage the numbers. But if I made it clear that I was not a Gata, and I said that a lot, like I'm not a Gata, then I don't have a color, and then it's never my turn. I'm always a number, and that was the position I envisioned when I made that move.
Okay. Andy, we're running low on time. Real quick, I'm talking to Genevieve in a couple minutes. Anything I should be asking her?
Oh my God. Genevieve's an amazing player. She's an amazing player. I'm very curious, and I don't know exactly what her end game strategy was going to be in the scenario where Rachel did leave at the final six. So I'm curious about that. But other than that, just wish her my best. I love
We'll
Genevieve.
we'll do. You want to give
Yeah,
us one more hair flip before you go?
sure. Why not? I'll give you a twirl. How about that?
Oh, so good.